So today I'm going to be talking about architecture in the 1920s, so the type of houses that were built then and the building history. So in the 1920s, there was a big push by politicians and leaders of industry to upgrade the standard of low-cost housing and make homes more affordable. The 20s was part of the transition between the 19th century style of housing and the type of homes we have today. New materials and building methods meant houses were easier to heat and cool, they were more hygienic, and more suited to modern living styles. So first up, I have the Queen Anne style of architecture. It is a Victorian type of house. Its peak building period was between 1880 and 1910, but it lasted another decade into the 20s. They were typically built in wood, which allowed artistic expression in the patterns and details, which defined the style. The style is basically asymmetrical, and they contrast, and a variety of surface textures. Also, elaborate motifs decorated every single flat surface with bold and unconventional color schemes. And some other things that were introduced in this house were wraparound porches and bay windows. One of the most classic understated house styles is the colonial revival house. It's stately and distinguished rather than cute and cottage-like. It's substantial houses that declare the owners are people who have solid center and traditional values. Its peak period was between 1880 also, and it reigned until 1955. Some characteristics of this house are obviously they are symmetrical and rectangular, and the entrance is always going to be centered and assented with columns, and also they are built out of brick or wood clapboard. So, a desirable feature of 1920s homes, found especially in craftsman bungalows, was the breakfast nook. It was a compact, safe space eating area located near the kitchen, and in smaller homes it replaced the dining room or saved the dining table from taking up lounge room space. The craftsman bungalow was built between 1860 and the 1930s. It was developed because America basically wanted to bring the design reforms from the British arts and crafts movement. Some characteristics of this house was large bays, turrets, and rear wings removed, which created a simplified porch compared to previous houses. And bungalows were typically smaller houses, which is why everything was simplified and compacted. Most of America's castles, palaces, and mansions were built in the 1920s, before there was income tax and when the rich were extremely rich. During the Roaring Twenties, prosperity soared, and the dream of living in one of these great American mansions was added to everyone's list. One of the most famous mansions built during this era of architecture was the Gatsby Mansion in the Great Gatsby. It includes a bunch of different architectural styles, including towers from the Victorian style and columns and gables. If you've read The Great Gatsby, actually, you would know of the Valley of Ashes. In the Valley of Ashes, we see more of America's industrial drive through the Valley of Ashes. The long stretch of wasteland was created by the dumping of industrial ashes. This is when the first real American slums began to develop due to rapid urbanization. As seen in what's kind of like the logo for The Great Gatsby is what is known as Art Deco, often described as a pastiche of styles and an eclectic combination of influences, materials, and shapes. Art Deco was certainly one of the most influential decorative styles in the first half of the 20th century. First appearing in France in the 1920s as a combination of art and craftsmanship, the style quickly spread around the globe, drawing from the different sources and affecting various disciplines. It became one of the most commonly used architectural styles, most notably in the United States after it was first introduced in 1922 during the Chicago Tribune headquarters design competition. So, as you can see, the 20s was the time of a great shift in American architecture. And in the American architecture of the time, there was an immense amount of development in both building design and engineering. The greatest influence was the rise of the industry that led to the rise of the skyscraper. Until the 19th century, buildings over 6 stories were rare. The development of steel, reinforced concrete, elevators, water, and pumps have made it possible for the construction of extremely tall buildings, some of which are well over 300 meters. The first skyscrapers in Chicago and New York have been designed in a neo-Gothic or neoclassical style, but the 1920s buildings combined modern materials and technology such as stainless steel, concrete, aluminum, and chrome-plated steel with Art Deco geometry. They were designed to show the prestige of their builders through their height, their shape, their color, and their dramatic illumination at night. Skyscrapers constructed in Chicago and New York during this period became the tallest and most recognizable modern buildings today. Engineers of the 1920s considered that 2,000 feet high was the maximum height that a skyscraper would be. The Empire State Building, which is one of the best-known skyscrapers, was commenced in 1930 and finished 18 months later in 1931. The Empire State Building's construction was hurried to completion in order to take the title of the world's tallest building from the Chrysler Building. It remained the tallest building in the world for many years until the construction of the World Trade Center and shortly afterward the Sears Tower. The building's distinctive spire was originally designed to be a mast and depot for Zeppelins. However, after a couple of brief attempts, the idea proved to be impractical and dangerous due to its powerful updrafts caused by the sides of the building itself. So that's basically the overview of all the 1920s architecture, not including like dates and stuff of all like famous buildings, but yeah, that's basically all you need to know. Bye.